The following is intended only for mature audiences. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Hey folks, P. Basardo here, and you're listening to the Smoke Free Radio Network.
Not only is he my bail bondsman,
Thanks. Everybody say hello to Mr.
The actual only third way in our country right now.
I'm gonna try to actually talk a little bit and maybe not get
some videos. And you know, like the ones a lot of the ones that really
fighting. I mean, in their mind, they're revolutionary, force, right? And I mean, obviously, to get rid of
it's crazy to me, and I feel like Big Tobacco's sitting there laughing. They're like, "This is
right." I don't claim to know a lot of stuff when it comes to advocacy. I don't.
Are calling this an epidemic. We're in the middle of the third wave of...
Such as VSFA, such as Big Ramsey.
oh wow, it's like that.
With any issue, right? Everybody has their preconceived bias, and anything you throw at them might move them a little bit, but they're going to be anchored.
Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Vaping and the Mic. Got a few things coming up here. Short announcement when we are at the end of this show, so you might want to stick around for that just real quick. But this evening we started off with just one gentleman for a guest, and now we have wound up with two. And it's kind of awesome because we're going to have a long chat about what they are getting ready to get into. So even without any kind of ado, folks, if you would, please welcome Mr. Mark Byrd and Mr. Kevin Price. Gentlemen, how are you? Oh, see, I did it again. My God, I'm going to get in so much trouble this way. Before I can even hear them, I've got to take them off of the mute button. It's like, oh my God. Gentlemen, can you hear us? And can I hear you?
How about yourself?
There we go.
Doing good. How are you?
Now we're good. See, there's too many buttons that are going on around here. I'm not as good as Dimitri at doing this. I've got that fancy little push button box that I can change scenes, and it's like, But we're not even going to do that tonight. What people are seeing right here is what we're going to be pretty much stacked on for the evening, because I want to be able to have all of us all at one time. Now, the reason that I really wanted to have Mark, and Kevin, I'm glad that you're able to join us this evening, because you're going to be able to throw some different perspective into this entire thing. There is a new type of something. I don't want to call it an expo, and it's kind of a different fair, but it is the SmokeLess Faire. And what is unique about this from other expos is that it includes almost every rationale of tobacco harm reduction known to man. Is that kind of a good summation?
Yes, sir.
Great summation.
And it caught my attention because I'm thinking, okay, we're all here in one format or another doing THR. We're all talking about it. We're all doing something. And yet here you guys come with this, and it is for everything tobacco harm reduction, whether it is vaping, whether it is patches, gum, everything that under the sun. And I have to assume at some point it would also include IQOS. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And that's what really caught my attention, because from a vapor side, I look at IQS and go, oh my God, it's the devil. It's the devil incarnate. But that's me as a manufacturer for the vaping industry, and that's me as a stereotypical vaping advocate.
Right.
Right. Yep.
You guys are on the other side. You remind me very much of Kevin. What is his last name?
Crowley.
Thank you. Oh my God,
Yeah.
I have such a brain fart. It took me a couple of months of actually speaking with Kevin Crowley in order to understand where his mindset was coming from. Because it was not the stereotypical vapor. As being around all the other vapors, it was just me listening to them, and we all spoke the same language. We all had the same kind of thing. We were all on the same page. Here comes Crowley, and he goes, well, it's not just about vaping. Dude, what the hell are you talking about? Of course it's just about vaping. No, it's not, Mike. And we had this long conversation about tobacco harm reduction, whether I liked it or not. So how did you guys come up with this particular idea to take it to market, so to speak?
Mark?
I think it was kind of a combination. It was kind of a combination. I've been wanting to do something like this for a while now. You know, and you know me for everybody hated on Juul. I've always been a supporter of Juul. Why? Because it's about the consumer. It's about getting people to quit smoking, as opposed to just being able to vape using open source or open source kind of systems. I think that Kevin has been doing the THR for Life. He's been the president of THR for Life for a while now, and that's kind of their same mission. Is by whatever means necessary. We want people to quit smoking. If that means IQOS, if that means acupuncture, if that means whatever it means, we want to be able to provide that to a person who really wants to quit smoking. So, as opposed to a trade show, what we Kevin came and tried to figure out how we can produce a consumer-based show that gives them the best chance at quitting smoking. Would you agree with that, Kevin?
Absolutely. The concept is, if we have a 70% quit rate with people trying vapor products, what do we offer the 30% that was unable to make that work for them? And there you have a large demographic that needs to be introduced to all these other products. And these other products may not have the same success rate or the same mass appeal, but they do have an answer for a lot of smokers. And to be a true tobacco harm reductionist, you have to give people choices. You have to put everything on the table and say, this is what's available. This is what you can use to find a healthier alternative to combustible tobacco smoking. I think we're doing a very large disservice to the general public if we don't offer them everything that's available. Yes, we're all vapors. Yes, vaping has a very large following. Vaping is probably the largest tobacco harm reduction industry currently in play, and that's because of its success rate. But by and large, you cannot discount people's individual needs. And like I mentioned earlier before the show, we see a lot of vapors that you can't vape at work. You can't puff clouds in your office or on a sales floor or wherever you might be. It's not just not allowed, but it would probably look fairly unprofessional. So, what about the nicotine toothpick you can discreetly put in your mouth and just kind of chew on and get your nicotine delivery from? What about the lozenges? Mark alluded to, what if, a percentage of the population is actually successful with acupuncture or hypnotism? We're going to bring all of that to the Vapors Carnival in an effort to not only give them all the options available, but to change their perception of what tobacco harm reduction is. Because to date, it is considered that there's vaping and there's nothing else. We have a small amount of people that do the snus, which is a pasteurized tobacco product, which is nicotine delivery in a very clean form that you can actually swallow without stomach upset. And that's that's another form that's got its whole subculture of that a lot of vapors don't even know much about. And maybe there's vapors that are maybe they're looking for that alternative. Maybe they want to switch it up. Maybe vaping isn't always their thing, and along with the other people, it's important that they have those choices, and yeah, that's why we're doing the SmokeLess Faire. So I apologize if I mispronounced that earlier, but yeah, it's that's the premise behind it, and there's a few other things we'll touch on a little bit later, but that's the idea.
How long was this kind of baking in the back of somebody's brain before it really became into fruition?
I think separately, we both been thinking about this separately, and we spoke about it in Oklahoma in January, and we kind of started thinking like about how could we do the best service to the consumer, and marry these ideas between advocacy, which Kevin, as you know, is the president of THR for Life.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a consumer. It's a consumer advocacy organization. It's not a business advocacy organization. So it's all about the consumer and getting them these products that we're talking about now, getting them off of smoking. That's what he's been about for a while. It's what's been in the back of my head for a while. And I've been wondering, what would it take? How would we accomplish these tasks? I think it's just a matter of meeting the right people, the right people with like minds who, had a very specific direction that they wanted to go in and taking the next step, putting it down on paper, getting it together.
I'm going to ask you something, and this is kind of a pointed
Sure.
question, and you can decline to answer, and I would understand why.
Sure.
How much opposition did you run into in manufacturers, shops, things like that? And by that, I mean that they had a negative or poor reception at first until you spoke to them about the idea and what the drive is.
I think that at first, people are manufacturers, distributors, and retailers even are kind of used to the same old, way of doing business. The standard vape expo, which does things a very specific way, and you can kind of see the same mechanisms, implemented at each, of these differing trade shows. And I think so. At first, it was kind of confusing to some. What are you trying to do? This is it's not an expo. This is a consumer show, not a. Although it does have some business elements to it, because for example, Nashville, Tennessee has the highest number of smoke shops and all product sales in the entire country. That's why we chose Knoxville, because of its proximity to Nashville and so huge alternative product offering base there. So there is some business aspect to getting your products in these different retailers, smoke shops, for example. Go ahead.
You said Nashville is the largest populace of smoke shops, like tobacco smoke shops?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
And Tennessee is the ninth, has the ninth highest rate of smoking in the entire country.
Wow.
So a lot of smokers.
Yep.
A lot of smokers.
And it's one of the things that I know everybody agrees on is getting people away from combustible tobacco. That's
right.
That's everybody's main drive. That's what they say.
Right.
And let's call a spade just for a minute. Anybody that is in business A, to make a profit, and B, do what they want to do.
Correct.
Or at least draw even, so they are not putting money out of their own pocket into their business to fund what they want to do. And at that point, it doesn't become a business. It's either a hobby or something else.
Right.
You know? And then that goes for every shop, every manufacturer, every distro. I don't care who it is. Everybody's in it to make money, even if it's a little bit. But their goal, their primary drive is to get people away from cigarettes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
the base premise of everyone, from vape shops to retailers, I mean, they want to help people quit smoking, and they want to make money doing it. There's nothing wrong with that.
No,
right.
I wholeheartedly agree. It's just there are times that it rubs me the wrong way when I hear some large manufacturer going, "We're in it just to get people to stop smoking." Oh, bullshit, guys. Come on.
Right.
Be real for 5 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, back in the early 2010 to 2013 era, the majority of the e-liquid companies that did come out brought their products forward because it worked for them and they wanted to share that with the rest.
Yes, very much so.
And when obviously you see the profitability of something with a high margin unseen in decades, a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon, so to speak. Not necessarily a bad thing. It brought variety and choice to the consumer, and that's what we want ultimately. But at the same time, you do have your, your profiteers and people that don't have their heart in it, but you can't stop that. That's part of a growing industry. It's happened with every industry that came to the forefront. It's just how history goes. But I think with the SmokeLess Faire, what we're looking at is a new way to present solutions for the consumer's smoking habit to help them quit. And we're able to say that because, we're not industry. We're doing a educational consumer event,
right,
which includes advocacy seminars. So when they come in, they can hear speakers give them the facts, tell them statistics, whatever they want to present, or however long they want to sit there and learn prior to entering the event. They're welcome to do that. Some people may just come in and listen to the educational pieces of it and leave. Some people might come in, skip that part and go right to the products. But I think the appeal here is that, and I hate to say this, but based on the portrayal of the media and the health organizations, vaping has a bad reputation. Whether it's doing good or not, the general public sees it as a bad thing.
Well, let's look at that too, because that is a lot of media hype,
right?
Based upon some really shady things that have happened in the vapor industry,
right?
Absolutely.
Well, and you've got your bad actors that have, the cartoon labels and the bad marketing plans, and they're obviously there to go out like a shooting star, burn up quick, and make as much as they can as fast as they can and exit stage left. But there's a lot of good people that want to see people quit smoking, and they want to have that customer base for many, many years, and they're doing things right. And yes, they're doing it for a profit because they've put their heart and soul into it. They've put everything into it that they can. And that doesn't necessarily ring true just for vaping. There's plenty of people out there that have alternate products that believe that those are going to answer many thousands, if not hundreds of thousands or millions of people's answer to their smoking issue. So why not bring them all in? Why not educate the consumer and let them see what's available? Take some samples home with them to try in the privacy of their own home. Of course, some are going to be more successful than others. And the hope is that we appeal to a whole new demographic of smokers that normally wouldn't come to an event because they think it's only vapor. And we do see a lot of vape CBD kind of stuff That's fine and everything. But I think we have enough battles on our own without combining CBD or CBD flower in with the vaping industry right now. Maybe if things were different, it might be a better situation to do those combinations, because you can vape CBD and it can be beneficial for you, and it actually can help you quit smoking by itself. But we're primarily looking at the tobacco harm reduction portion of this, and that appeals to smokers and people that might possibly smoke. And that's a huge area that people forget about. If somebody's going to smoke, to tell them vaping is only for smokers to quit, you're turning off an entire demographic from possibly not ever starting smoking when they would anyways, instead of going to vaping or something similar. So
Well, snooze. Snooze is a good example. You know,
right.
That's a non-vapable product that many people have had great success quitting smoking with. You know, nicotine toothpicks you mentioned. You know, there's grinds. There's, you know, there's so many alternatives available that people may not even know about. You know, but it might suit their particular style of quitting, you know, better. Or as you mentioned, Kevin, there's also the vapors who can't vape all the time. You know, what do they do for their nicotine
Right.
you know intake when they're in places like airports or hospitals, or you know
Baseball
when
game.
they're at work, baseball games, you know, any kind of sporting event where it's not socially acceptable to do so. I mean, you know, a lot of people use those little stealth devices and so forth, but that's not, you know, that's not the best way to get your nicotine in a place where it's, you know, not technically allowed, you know, because you're
Right.
technically, you know, just breaking law. You know, and so a lot of people, if they had alternatives to that, I think that they would be, you know, they would be well suited to find those alternatives that work best for them. Some people, snooze is the answer. You know, some people nicotine toothpicks, some people grinds or gum or lozenges. You know, all of these things I think have merit, and you know, for both vapors and smokers. Primarily, though, it's, you know, our message is to smokers who are trying to quit.
Absolutely. And you know, I want to touch on some of these different products because we're mentioning them, but we're not explaining them.
Sure.
Grinds. Grinds is coffee grounds in a pouch, set up a lot like your chew pouches. But the premise behind that is to deliver caffeine in the same manner that your nicotine would be delivered. And because there are very similar properties between caffeine and nicotine, time to entry to bloodstream, the stimulant effect, a lot of people have found success in using caffeine replacement for nicotine, and they've been successful. And you know, there's obviously not a stigma against caffeine. Could you imagine if we had moms against Starbucks out there and they were attacking Starbucks saying that it's killing people? You could imagine.
Right.
I was just thinking, do you know how many people would be standing around waiting for a soccer mom to pull up and get out of her van? And
they'd be throwing their lattes at her minivan.
They would just stuff her back in her minivan, pick it up, turn it around, and shove it back out on the street.
That's right.
I mean, you know, when you think about it, it's really preposterous. But they've, and I don't mean to get into this side of it, but we're in an ugly situation right now, and all the more reason to have an event that isn't presented like your typical vape expo. This is not a vape expo. This is an educational and tobacco harm reduction event. It's going to be a much more laid back. It's going to be a much more professional and low key event, so that we do hope to get the older smokers to come in. We do hope to get the younger crowd as well, because there will be vape there and there's going to be all these other alternative products. But we want to appeal to the widest demographic. We don't want to say this is only for vapors, or this is only for snooze users. This is only for people who chew nicotine gum. This is for everybody that is looking for a way to quit, and looking for a way to quit that works for them. And, you know, as individuals, we can't, all three of us here, we quit smoking vaping. And most of the people we know did. But again, there's a whole bunch of people that even I've talked to in personal relationships at work and otherwise, where they said I tried vaping and it just didn't work for me.
And the rationale that goes behind that, and I listen to a lot of people. I listen to people that are more of a mod and direct lung. I've listened to people talk about pod systems and how Juul has helped them. And I've listened to Dimitri talking about MTL and how it really replicates a smoking pattern, you know. So
absolutely,
if somebody tried vaping, it didn't work for me. Chances are they didn't have the right setup or product to begin with, which
absolutely
goes right back to someone failed in basic education.
Someone failed to ask the lifestyle questions to choose the correct product to suit their needs.
Exactly.
Period. Do you have kids? Do you think the soccer mom wants to puff on a 200-watt mod, blowing fat clouds, bro,
No.
while her kids are in the back seat? No.
No, because
she
you know what's going to
probably
happen?
Would be
she's going to get
she'd
made
get
fun
a ticket.
of. No,
Well, in
all
some
the other
states-
soccer moms are going to go, Julie, what are you doing? You
Yeah.
know?
Oh, it's beyond that now. I mean, now it's like, you know, they have like this group Pave. I don't know if you've been following
Oh, my
Never heard
this
of 'em.
group, but they're, oh my
Never,
goodness,
never
they're
heard of them,
outright
Mark.
right. Well, some people may not have heard of them, but they're absolutely horrible. They're demonizing it. They're, you know, and they're poisoning people's minds. You know, I've literally seen, you know, tweets and other kind of commentary where they're saying it's safer to just smoke cigarettes. I mean,
Yeah.
how ridiculous is that?
Well, that's a very contentious point with me, and I'm glad you said it because it does happen. And the thing that bothers me most as president and founder of Tobacco Harm Reduction, um, it's very tough to remain diplomatic and address these issues without a lot of emotion. You have to bite your tongue a lot, and you have to say, "Look, here's the facts. You guys are misguiding the public. Your ire is misdirected." Juul never marketed to kids. Their plain packaging by itself indicates an adult product.
Yep.
I've never demonized Juul. I've never blamed them. The only thing Juul's guilty of is being highly successful in getting a lot of people to try their product. Now, granted, there's this supposed teen vaping epidemic that Juul brought on. However, there's a very intense lack of data to prove that point. So, in my honest opinion, that's a false narrative and rhetoric. Until these school districts start producing bags and bags full of confiscated Juul pods, I don't believe it.
It's the one thing when you talk about kids. I spoke to a former police chief. He's a friend of mine. And I asked him, he sat down, honest to God, he's retired. He took 2 hours of his time. And we spoke about teen smoking, teen vaping, things that are going on, the ramifications, the laws. He goes, it boils down to parents are no longer doing their job. And
they're
the
not
parents,
required to.
The parents are pushing that on to a school system or to another body altogether.
Right.
Because little Bobby shouldn't have an age-restricted product. How did they get it? Why is the parent not aware of that? You know,
right.
Why is the parent not doing something about it? And the kid that sits there and, well, I had a two pot a day Juul addiction and I got this whatever infection and, all right.
A likely story.
What was his parents doing? Oh, John, it's okay, dude. Here, let me go get you another pod. Really?
Well, and Mike, to your point, I read an article today which one of my board members posted, Skip Murray, and it was twin girls, 16, and they have been using Juul for the past year, so they probably started when they were 15. And they're suing Juul for not indicating the high nicotine content. And their attorney said, quote unquote, their young minds have been damaged and misdirected with this addiction. and the mom says that she tried to get them on patches to break their Juul addiction. And I'm thinking, okay, let's break this down. So you have 15-year-olds that are buying, they claim 2 Juul pods a day. I don't know how much those things are. I've never bought one. But I'd imagine that becomes very expensive. So at some point, they're getting money from their mom at 15. They probably didn't have a job. So mom knew they were spending money. Did she ever check their credit card statements to find out where they were spending it? Probably not. The fact that they failed in school because now they've got this nicotine addiction that's distracting them, and they're agitated, and all these other adverbs and descriptive words to say how damaging Juul was to them. And the whole time, all I could think is, you weren't being a parent. You weren't being a parent there. You weren't being a parent there either. And it's apparent you're not a parent. So
when my mom caught me drinking vodka, she didn't go attack, at the Absolute company. She beat my ass,
Yeah, I would have beat your ass too if you were drinking Absolute. I would have been like a gray goose or death.
Yeah, well, as a young man, I couldn't afford the top shelf stuff. But the point is, like if the cops caught me with vodka, then what happened? I got a fine. I got like a minor in possession charge. You get probation. They didn't go and ban vodka.
Right.
They didn't go and tell ABC stores that you can't sell vodka anymore, because I gained access illegally to this.
Right. I mean, absolutely, Mark.
They punished me. Yeah.
It's
ridiculous.
What happened to punishing your children instead of creating local or county laws that did it for you? I mean,
Yeah.
It's preposterous. It really is. Maybe it's a generational thing, but at the end of the day, your kids aren't smoking. They might have this purported nicotine addiction, but we already know, based on the data out there, there have been very little studies done on the addictive properties of nicotine by itself without smoking. And every time you put one of these tobacco control, what I call artists, to task,
Right.
they can't pull up one single study where nicotine has been, tested on its addictiveness without smoking. They keep saying, they'll post study after study with it in smoking. And you say, no, wait a minute. I'm asking by itself, is it highly addictive? And they will just say something like, I can tell by your information that you're an industry person and you probably work for Big Tobacco. So they take a scapegoat route. And, it's frustrating. It's maddening. But this is the realm that we're in. This is what we're experiencing. This is the stuff that we're battling every day, is this misinformation. And the most galling effect of it all is that none of these tobacco control groups are bound by any laws to communicate truthfully with the public.
That one kills me.
Doesn't it?
Just as a segue for a minute, I don't know how many years ago, but somebody, and I believe it was Dimitri, that had shown me or sent me a link to, it was Father Jack Kearney that had spoken about nicotine not being an addictive substance. Now, he's an addiction specialist. He goes, it creates a dependency, but it does not actually create an addiction. An addiction more like drugs, to where you will go out of your way and rob homes and do many adverse things to fuel your addiction. Nicotine is a dependency item, much like caffeine and coffee.
Absolutely.
Nobody in the media says anything. They keep saying addiction, and they don't, just what you said, they don't have to prove it.
They don't. They're not bound by law to have to prove it.
No.
They can say whatever they want. Look at Boulder, Colorado. Yes, I believe it was yesterday.
Yep.
passed a flavor ban.
Yep.
You can only sell tobacco flavored products within Boulder County. And the premise behind that entire hearing, if you look at the evidence, was that flavors hook kids.
Yeah.
And there's no research behind that. It was a perspective that they were able to convince that city council that was accurate, that was reality. And it's all about the theatrics.
Now let me
Bringing the
ask you.
kids, have them do their little speeches.
Here's the fun part. If I'm not wrong, they still have flavored edibles for their marijuana products, and those
Correct.
are allowed to be for sale.
Correct.
So
18 plus.
We cannot sell a flavored product that is 95% safer than smoking, but you can sell a product that is flavored marijuana.
Right. So what are the kids going to do?
The term that I throw in there is hypocrite.
Absolutely. What are the kids going to do, Mike?
They're going to turn around and they're going to go back to smoking if they can't get their basic premise of flavors in vaping, and assuming that they're not juul using kids. They're either going to try the flavored edibles. Let's get a gummy bear with some THC in it. Okay. Or they're going to go back to smoking.
Yep. So they're going to do that. Okay, so vaping is this taboo, right? And they're gonna veer away from that because it's getting more and more difficult, and we see $1,000 penalties for possession coming up in a few counties. So they're going to be like, I'm not going to risk that and get in trouble with my parents. So what are they going to do? They're just going to go buy a pack of cigarettes.
Yep.
Why not?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know what else they're going to do? They're going to get those cigarettes that are coming down the pipeline that are nicotine reduced. So they're going to smoke more to get the same effect.
Yep.
And they're going to damage their lungs that many times over. And that is just so bass-ackwards to me that I can't even comprehend. I knowing what I know and knowing you guys know, I can't even start to fathom the mindset behind that decision. And I'm like, this is the FDA who's pushing this.
Yep.
And then we look at the bigger picture, and maybe we're getting off track here, but I think it needs to be said that there is a concerted effort to keep us sick and dying.
Yes.
For those that are in power and the status quo to remain the same.
Cigarette sales have fallen.
That's right.
Faster than they ever expected. And vaping is the leading cause of that. People stepping away from combustible tobacco and choosing a vapor product, even if it's Juul or other pod systems, they are no longer smoking, which means they are no longer getting as sick. And I've heard, I don't know how many people have said, since I started vaping, I haven't had the flu or a cold in the winter.
Or bronchitis, or
Yeah.
pneumonia.
Yeah.
All of that.
Or
So-
had to pay for those medicines through my doctor, plus the copay, plus the insurance payment, or possibly the x-rays on the lungs that the x-ray tech benefits from.
Yep.
I mean, when you think about how far and deep this goes against the medical industry, and especially the pharmaceutical industry,
bingo.
I think we can kind of figure out where the heat's coming from and where the rhetoric is coming from. And then we have the states with the master settlement agreement. Let's not forget about their funding that's diminishing. And that funding is nothing more than a giant slush fund for every state that agreed to it. So, and those are calculated on previous year's tobacco cigarette tax sales. So when they expect on estimations that they're getting $250 million and they don't, well, now they've got a deficit and they've got bonds or whatever means of finance that they've put forward to expect those funds to come in, and they don't. Now they're in a heap of shit.
Yep.
Pardon my French, but
it's true.
And you know what? anybody with half a brain can look at the statistics and see where the decline is being created from, and that would be vaping and other tobacco harm reduction products. Vaping being the largest one that brings success. They're obviously going to be the target for that replacement of funds. So
let's check
destroy the
this.
problem.
Yeah.
Get back to where we were, and everything will be fine.
Maintain the sick status quo.
That's right.
I'm not going to put this on a screen. I'm just going to read this real quick. Just in Ohio, it was the only place that I looked because I live in Ohio. And it covers from 2014 until 2018. And I'm only going to read 2017 and 2018. 2017, the tax revenue from Ohio selling tobacco products and cigarettes was $914,400,000.
Judas Priest.
The MSA money that they got was $270,678,950 for a total revenue income for Ohio for 2017 was $1,185,078,950. 1 year.
Unbelievable.
Last year,
that's just
2018.
Ohio.
Yeah, that's just Ohio.
Right.
It was 869,800,000. The MSA was 331,911,000, and they had a total of $1.201 billion total revenue brought in. And those are literal numbers that are reported from the Ohio tax revenue as well as the master settlement agreement. These are undisputable facts.
Right.
So when people ask, well, what's really going on when smoking declines?
Well,
they're not getting the tax money, and they're not getting the MSA money. And if you think for a moment, folks, that the state of Ohio is going to go, oh, we've lost $250 million this year, that's okay. Bullshit, they're going to do that.
And a factor that a lot of people forget to put into that equation is if people aren't getting sick and dying,
boom,
how much revenue does the medical industry lose as well?
From smoking-related illness, yep.
Yeah, you don't have the medical techs, you don't have the nurses, you don't have the housekeeping that pick up after the patients. I mean, if you just go down the line and look at where the negative financial reaction is, it's far-reaching and it's very deep. But I think the problem is nobody tends to look at the long-term benefits. Like after we get through the initial bruising of financial loss, there's going to be huge financial gain from people not getting sick. You have people working longer. You have families that, they're producing revenue longer because you're living longer. You're not taxing the medical system because you've got emphysema or COPD. All these things factor in long term, but unfortunately, the politics of today are based on votes and revenue. And, politicians are only looking at their next election. They're not looking 10, 20 years down the road.
No.
They don't care about that. They care about their next term. And until we get the foresight and the vision to see the benefits of this long term and are able to apply that to a local, county, state, and federal level, we're never going to win. And it's daunting to try to take it on. We are so overwhelmed right now just with these bad THC cart reports. It's a full-time job to chase those articles as they pop up and dispel them in the comments. And half the people don't even care to read the comments.
No.
So, and there's not a whole lot of us, but for the amount of money we have and the activity that we do, we're pretty darn effective. And if we had 900 million, if we had one state's MSA settlement money for 1 year, we could probably turn the tide. Yes. I think we're that effective. Wow. I think because we've got our heart in it, and I think we've got the truth behind us, and we could turn the tide if we had the right funding. unfortunately, everything is it's turned against us because we're the disruptor. We're the new kid on the block, and somebody's got to paint us as the new dragon to slay.
And that's one of the big things. We take a look at the United Kingdom versus America, and I'm not talking amount of populace at all. Basic difference.
Yep.
UK, the government pays for health care. In the U.S., it is a for-profit system.
There's the key.
So the UK, even just recently, told a hospital, yes, put a vapor store inside the hospital.
Yep.
Yes, we support vapor products, and they are doing research out the ass because they are being proven that people switching from combustible cigarettes to vaping, it costs the government less money in health care.
Way less. Yeah.
Yep.
Versus you come back here where we live, all the health care is for profit. So all the companies want that trickle-down effect. Big Tobacco wants theirs because they want to control what's going on. It is a slimy, shitty mess.
It really is. And you know what? That's the same premise that I presented to the city of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, back in 2015. We showed up there and they were going to ban the sale of vapor. And I asked the city council to do some research. I said, why is it that a government-sponsored healthcare in the United Kingdom promotes vaping as tobacco harm reduction, and we'll see the benefits financially 5 to 10 years from now? And why are we, a for-profit private industry, healthcare industry, attacking this? I said, that should bear a lot of red flags for you guys. And I said, you're smart members of the city council here. I expect you to be able to put 1 and 2 together and figure out the difference, because they don't make money, and a lot of systems don't make money unless we're getting sick, and we're a for-profit healthcare. And the look on their face told it all. And you know what? They voted it down. They voted it down.
Good.
And that was 4 years ago, Mike.
Yeah. That's when this thing just really started. Paul Blameyer, Paul, you put in the comments here, you said, look at Australia. We have health care, yet nicotine is illegal. So I'm going to ask you, Paul, if you'll type something in for me. Is it due to they want people to continue smoking? Or why have they made nicotine illegal in your own mind's eye? And I know it'll take him a 20-second delay and all that other stuff, and then he'll type some stuff in. But
I can tell you what he's going to say.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in.
It's either because the pharmaceutical industry down under wants to profit from it, or the country has interest in tobacco companies.
And that's my guess.
And I don't mean to steal Paul's thunder, because I know him very well and I talk to him quite a bit. But it's going to be one of those two.
But it amazes me how corrupt so many things are. And just like Boulder, Colorado, flavor ban, wham, done. They want to put a 40% tax on a ballot to say they want to vape to have a 40% tax. But they won't put that same tax on to see if people want to tax cigarettes the same. And It's ironic because they only have an 89% tax on a pack of cigarettes, and yet they want to tax like $4 to $6 or more on vaping on a 60 ml bottle.
It's pretty obvious what they're doing. And you know, the one thing that really irks tobacco control here in Minnesota, when I showed up to the county meeting, I said, if you really want to keep kids from smoking and you really want to affect the community in a positive way, I said, ban everything tobacco and nicotine.
Yeah.
And the look on the tobacco control group's face was that of pale and death upon them, because they knew what I was getting at, and they knew I had them right by their neck, and they did not like that proposal at all.
He said
Yeah.
it's because of the government is controlled by pharma.
There you go.
And the opioid
Boom.
problem starts from our country.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well,
ouch.
It's about money. It's it really
Yeah.
it's pharma, but really what pharma represents is money.
Yep.
Just like you mentioned the MSA settlement, the tax revenue, all of this is about money, and they're willing to let people die and suffer these catastrophic illnesses because it pays. That's what it's about. It
Point
pays.
blank. Yep.
It's ironic. I think about things at great length at times. And I think about how everybody that is in power, so to speak, big tobacco and pharma, and they want this continued money coming in, and the states want their continued taxation and revenue coming in. But something dawned on me. How many people are dying because of smoking-related illness before they retire?
480,000 a year.
Okay, but
In the
of
United
those
States alone.
480,000 a year, how many are pre-retirement age, as in they're still working?
Oh,
I would say at least half of them.
yeah.
What happens to all their Social Security money that they will never collect?
Well,
The
they
government
wouldn't
keeps
collect
it.
it anyways, Mike. Let's face it. They've put their dirty hands in that cookie jar way too many times in the past to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
They can't pay it out. They're trying to move the retirement age up to something where your quality of life as a retiree would be non-existent because you're too old to enjoy it.
Yep.
And that's just another factor that I used to actually trust government to do the right thing. And over the last 7 years, I have no faith in them. I have no faith in public health. I have no faith in any of these American Heart Associations, American Lung Association,
The FDA.
FDA. Look at the 2 million adverse effects reported to FDA approved drugs annually. Not to mention the amount of deaths that the FDA approved substances on the market are causing. They're not doing their job to protect the public. No matter how much they say save the children, they're full of shit.
Yes, they are.
And look at the Surgeon General just came out. Was it yesterday or today? They got this big public announcement, and it's about marijuana. I'm like,
don't get stoned if you got a baby.
Right.
You have bigger fish to fry.
Man, that was a valuable public service announcement there. So.
But it is ironic because it is a prelude to what they're going to do. If the Surgeon General is talking about it, you know damn well the United States government is going to legalize it.
Oh yeah, well,
because they can
easier
make taxes
and
on
more
it.
Profitable for them to hand it over to pharma and make. Tobacco can make it, pharma can sell it over the counter, and the states can tax it. Everybody wins, but us.
Yeah, everybody wins,
and they're all everybody's happy, and it can go back to what it was before.
Yeah,
but circling back to the SmokeLess Faire, TSLF as I call it for short, that's our acronym for it. I'm hoping that we're able to present this stuff and not necessarily go into the whole politics of it, because most people don't want to hear that. Most smokers don't care. They just want to know, can I grab it and go and get my nicotine fix?
Yep.
And that's as simple as they want it. They don't want to be involved in advocacy for the most part, but some will. And if they can find success, their advocacy is to get somebody else to find that same success with one of those products. And that's what the SmokeLess Faire is all about. We want to present this in a different fashion, a more professional manner. Not that there aren't vape expos that aren't professional. A lot of them are very professional, very entertaining, and very effective. And they convert a lot of smokers. I support them all. They're doing good. But it's time that we bring everything in front of these consumers and we give them a different venue or a different style of event to attend, learn, and bring home all the options to find out what works for them. And that's our hope here, is that not only just us, but everybody moves this way, and that the vape shops tend to turn this way as well. Wouldn't it be great if you could walk into a vape shop and they had, your cloud chaser mods and addies, and you had your mouth to lung devices like Dimitri and Phil make, and you have your um, your nicotine toothpicks, your decent flavored lozenges, your
Right.
your new nicotine gums that are coming out with private companies have phenomenal flavors in them and better nicotine delivery than Nicorette that everybody's used to, that nasty mint or chocolate or whatever their
Right.
flavors are. They're disgusting. They don't have good flavor. They're formulating new products that are more appealing to the end user and more pleasurable. And let's face it, when we smoked, there was a certain pleasure factor to it. Whether it stunk or not, we enjoyed doing it. And we shouldn't have to lose that pleasure factor for something as harmless as nicotine. It's not completely harmless, but it's not entirely highly addictive either.
No.
So between all these products, these improvements in the technology, we're hoping that more people will make nicotine toothpicks with better flavors and better nicotine delivery. We're hoping that more of these gum manufacturers come out with better flavors and better gums with better delivery. We're hoping that these snus producers, now that they're hitting America and they're legal, they're going to come up with all these different flavors that appeal to a wider audience. And we're also looking at, there's even herbal patches that you can stick on your skin, dermal patches that transfer herbal ingredients that do the same thing as nicotine. So there's a ton of stuff out there that we haven't even tried yet. I personally, I want to try them all. I want to see how effective they are. I can't always vape myself. I've got an office job, IT professional, where I can't vape in my office. And maybe I want to slap a patch on. Maybe I want to put a piece of gum in my mouth or a lozenge that has a custard flavor to it. Hell yes, that's better than god awful cough syrup cherry.
Right.
So we're hoping that we can attract a lot of smokers. And what Mark alluded to earlier, this is a very high concentration of smokers, smoke shops, and the surrounding cities within 3 hours, 9.75 million people. So if you've got 40% of them or 25% of them smoking, that's a lot of people that could potentially show up, see these products, and find a solution for them. And how life-changing would that be for them? We know how life-changing it is for us because we're all sitting here trying to get as many other people as we can to do what we did.
And that's a big one. All right, tell me, because we're getting ready to wrap our show up, but tell me when and where is the SmokeLess Faire going to be?
November 9th and 10th at the Knoxville Convention Center in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Is there an admittance fee?
No, it's free to get in. There is a $1 sampling charge, and that's a FDA deal. So in order to sample the products, you got to pay a tobacco transaction fee, which is $1. But it's $1 to get in.
It's $1.
Yeah.
I'll buy that for $1.
I'll buy that for $1.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, I certainly appreciate you taking time to sit here and talk about, even though we ranted a little bit about other things going on. People need to hear about the SmokeLess Faire because it offers alternatives. There will be vapor products there, I'm very certain.
Yes.
But there are many alternatives that will be presented that people can stop, check out, look at, pick up, get information on, and in some cases give it a shot.
Yep,
right there
absolutely.
on the spot. And if they like it, awesome. If they don't, they can move 2 booths down and look at something different.
That's right.
And that's the whole reason that I really wanted to talk to you guys, is to let people know there are other alternatives. If they are afraid of vaping, if they tried vaping and they didn't get it right and they don't want to go back. And I know I know that's a big one. People that have tried vaping, they didn't have the right setup, the right nicotine strength. There's so many different variables,
Right.
but they'll never go back. They'll never try it again. And unfortunately, that's a negative press for us because they'll go, oh, I tried vaping. Yeah, don't try that. It didn't work for me.
Right.
You know?
Well, we can try to re-educate them and get them new products and even new devices and possibly find something that works. And, you know, I'm going to close out my rant here with, I never thought it would be so hard to tell the truth in my entire life.
Right? My goodness.
It has been horrible the way they have really closed things down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been bad.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen. I'm going to put you on hold because I'm going to talk to you for a minute after the show. But I appreciate you being here. I appreciate taking time to let people know what's coming up. And I'm hoping that you can get the word out and say, hey, just stop in and check something out.
That's right.
You may very well find something that will work for you.
Absolutely. SmokelessFaire.com, November 9th and 10th, Knoxville, Tennessee. SmokelessFaire.com. Don't miss it, you guys.
There you go. All right, guys. I'll be right back with you guys here in a minute.
Thank
All
you.
right, buddy.
And for everybody else right now, here is something that I need to let people know. This, for me, right now is going to be the last live part of Vaping in the Mic that I'm going to be doing for a little while. The next couple shows of Vaping in the Mic, the ones for the foreseeable future, probably until the new year, they're going to be pre-recorded. I'm still going to be talking to a lot of people, but it's going to be a recorded item, and then it's going to be put up in the Smoke Free Radio Network, as well as loading to Vaping in the Mic and YouTube pages and things like that. So I'm hoping that everybody that was here, I hope that we will catch you again come the next Vaping in the Mic. Until then, I hope everybody has a great weekend. Thank you for joining, and I'll talk to you soon.